Call to order, regular meeting, Warren City Council, Tuesday, June 27th at 7 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
President Green.
Here.
Councilman Watts.
Here.
Councilman Lafferty.
Here.
Councilman Kabazinski.
Present.
Councilman Rogency.
Here.
Councilman Papandrea.
Here.
Councilman Moore. You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item is 4, adoption of the agenda. So moved with discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Consent agenda.
Yes. I have a minor correction to make to 4L. That is not a public hearing, so there's no need to set the date. It's just dealing with the SAR to correct previously listed addresses.
Okay. You good with that?
Without objection.
Any other? Call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Ms. Rogency?
Yes.
Mr. Kabazinski?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
Next item is 5, adoption of the agenda. So moved with discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion?
Yes, I would like to add as 13A, discussion, Ray Landmark Estates, and 13B, discussion in Ray Michigan Campaign Finance Act violation, misuse of city resources.
Mr. Lafferty?
Without objection.
Mr. President,
Does that conclude? Ms. Moore?
What number is that?
one additional item.
13B.
Ms. Rogency?
Fire stations and responsible contracting ordinance publication.
I think that's on the calendar pending matters, maybe. Is it? We can add.
Did you want to add that as a
Okay, we can add.
discussion
The
item?
agenda, yeah, to the,
Okay.
for discussion.
2 of them?
There's one item.
Fire stations and the responsible contracting ordinance.
Okay.
Any additional? Call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Mr. Rogency?
Yes.
Mr. Kabazinski?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
Next item is 6A, calendar of pending matters, motion to receive and file.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Watts?
I'd just like to state for the record, there's a lot of pending items on there that the mayor and staff has refused to fill, so still waiting patiently.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Mr. Lafferty?
Thank you. Dated the 23rd of May, the master agreement in terms of the M-File contract, that item can be removed, but I would like an update from the city attorney, Mr. Vinson, on the status of the amendment for the status on the termination amendment.
Any additional? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 6B, discussion in Ray resident and neighborhood concerns.
Any resident neighbor concerns? I've got a couple. 32144 Wellston. The resident is inquiring on how to get a tree removed on the boulevard. It's diseased, full of ants, and they've called several times to inquire. The next is 31781 Norrid Circle, and the house there from the residents is full of rats, weeds, tall grass. And the last is 31670 Norrid Circle, same street, just around the corner. That one has an 18-wheeler that they work on in their garage. They changed the oil in the garage. The resident said that it looks like they dumped the oil in the street. Did not see that, but I don't think you can park an 18-wheeler, back it into a residential garage. So if the administration can address those 3, I'd greatly appreciate it. Any additional on resident and neighborhood concerns?
Mr. President.
Mr. Lafferty.
I'd like to submit for correspondence a letter from Jonathan Ott, OTT, of Anna Street, concerns with the tree removal process and the process of felling a tree.
Thank you. Any additional? All in favor to send these to the administration?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item.
Next item is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of June 13, 2023. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 8A, approval of the bills of the General Revenue Fund. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion on the bills? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Ms. Rogency?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
Next item is approval of the bills of the water and sewer system. That's 8B. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Ms. Rogency?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
8C, General Fund Revenue Report for May 2023. Motion to receive and file.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 8D, General Fund Expenditure Report for May 2023. Motion to receive and file.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 8E, General Fund Revenue Report for April 2023. Motion to receive and file.
Support.
Motion by Moore, support by Watts. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item.
8F, General Fund Expenditure Report for April 2023. Motion to receive and file.
Support.
Motion by Moore, support by Watts. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Audience.
Members of the audience who would like to address the City Council this evening may do so under the audience portion by filling out the form, and you'll be given 3 minutes to speak. When there's 1 minute left, I'll let you know. When there's 3 minutes, I'll ask you to wrap up. The first speaker is William Lazaro. Press the base on there. There should be a green light that turns on. Is a green light up?
Hello? There we go. I'm from Woodview Park. We've had the mayor in there, the city's in there right now. The conditions are deplorable. There's no maintenance people that are licensed to work in there. I have no hot water. I haven't had hot water in 3 years. I had bed bugs twice. Cockroaches are in there, skunks, rats. The rats are so bad they're wearing tuxedos. You know, that's how bad they are. And we need help. It's Woodview Park. We really need help there. They don't want to give us titles to our trailers. The list goes on and on. I'm really nervous here, so I know 3 minutes goes by real quick. I've talked to Mayor Faust about it already 2 weeks ago. He never called me back. I still don't have hot water. I've talked to the building inspector. He can't do anything. The health department, they can't do nothing. After talking with Eddie, I don't really know how far you guys can really go into it. You know, I don't understand how the law works, but I'm asking for some help because all of us are living in really deplorable conditions, and it needs to be addressed. I'll be calling Angela tomorrow. We're paying sewer fees every month, and I look out my door and all I see is feces and toilet paper, and they won't snake. I have to snake. Cost me $453, and I had to eat it. So I'm really at my wit's end, don't know what to do anymore, so I'm hoping the city council can help. This is my first time here, so I have no clue what I'm doing.
We appreciate you coming here and addressing this to us, and we'll definitely be investigating as we are the other park as well.
You know, the city has put stickers on the trailers, and then they put no trespassing signs right over your orange stickers, or they just rip them right off. You know, I have pictures of all that, and I have pictures of all the damage. So, I guess that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jerry Burden.
Good evening, council and ladies and gentlemen. I speak tonight because I continue to hear everybody talk about free speech, and let's move Warren forward. This podium is for the citizens to address the council, and do you know that anyone in this building only has 3 votes for 3 of these people? You vote for 2 independents, 2 at-large, and 1 council member. That council member has 5 districts. All of those districts are different. Our city is very large and diverse. Council members are concerned about the items in their district. Every district has different problems. Many of these problems do not affect the entire city. However, some of them do. I would like all of you to move Warren forward. But we cannot do that when we come up here, call each other names, shout at each other, interrupt speakers so others can't hear. This reflects on all of us. And some of you out here may be up there in the future. Be respectful to everyone. Let's not make Warren, the city council, the laughingstock that it is by our actions. Remember, actions speak louder than words. And as you point your finger at someone else, 3 of them are pointing back at you. You call someone an idiot. You call them all kinds of names. We don't need that. Yes, you do have a right to free speech, but we all have the right to respect, and respect is earned. It's not given. This is not a rubber stamp council. I have seen votes of 4-3, 5-2, 6-1, and 7-0. These members do not agree on everything, and many things they don't know until you tell them. So come up to this podium, let the council know what you're doing, but do it with respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Adam Saka.
Good evening. I was outraged to hear that the City Council is planning to overturn a veto by Mayor Fouts to allow Nooner's Towing to have a junkyard within a residential area. For those that are not familiar, Nooner's Towing is between 12 Mile and 696 and Mountain Road. It borders a beautiful neighborhood. If you allow a junkyard to exist there, what's going to happen when you crush the cars and the fluids leak everywhere? Is there any plan in terms of how to deal with that? In terms of crushing the cars, the dust, where is all that going to go? We could be on the hook for millions of dollars in the future for cleaning up and remediating that area. I think it's a bad idea. It belongs in a heavy industrial area, not bordering a residential area. To even think about approving this is really concerning, and it questions my understanding of how you care about Warren citizens. Secondly, how many cars are able to be crushed? With those crushed cars, what's going to happen with the rat population? There's going to be a haven for rat nests everywhere, and how is the city going to deal with that? This is just a really bad idea. My name is Adam Sauka. I'm running for city council, and I will always have the best interests of the citizens on hand. I will always fight for the highest quality and standard of living for the residents. I asked the Warren residents to join me July 27th outside of council chambers. We're going to have our voices heard. We do not need a junkyard in the middle of a residential area. It needs to be in a heavy industrial center, not by residents. Thank you.
Joel Rutherford.
Good evening, Council. Joel Rutherford, a Warren resident. This isn't really about the council or the administration so much, but I'd rather speak to the voters of Warren. I look back 4 years ago, primary turnout was 17%. In a general election, it was around 24%. If people want change, if they want to be represented, we have to vote. That's not to criticize anybody, that's just the facts. People from all sections of Warren have to look at it as their voices can be heard if they vote. Get the people in that you want. It's easy to sit on a keyboard and, be on social media and that kind of thing, but that's not going to change anything. What I'd really like to see is let's get an actual turnout in both this primary and in the general election. Because what happens is basically you have around 20,000 people or so that are deciding who's going to represent us. We have to do better. We have to do better than that. Now, the one thing I will say, as a veteran and also an African American, I'm extremely angry with this administration. I know City Council, voted to basically have a Veterans Commission. The mayor decided that he just wouldn't do it because he told me, well, none of those people are going to get approved. I said, Mayor, how do you know if you don't try? So basically what he did was turned his back on his veterans. City Council also approved the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. He refused to do that. I tried to talk to him about it. The mayor said the same thing. Well, they're not only going to not approve his appointees, what he was upset about was the fact that the commission would decide who the director would be. And he said that should be under his purview. I asked him, I said, well, Mayor, if that's the way council passed it, why would you be against that? If you're really interested in diversity, equity, and inclusion in this city, why in the world would you not try to do something about it?
1 minute.
Thank you. The one thing I would like to say lastly is this. I asked Police Commissioner Warren Dwyer for basically use of force policies and also for body cams. Because the people I know are not asking to defund the police, but it seems like the police are defunding themselves. We cannot continue to have such large settlements, these lawsuits and other things that the taxpayers are responsible for. But I'd like to see something that perhaps with the new council we can get some kind of civilian oversight for the police department. And I'm not saying all police officers are bad, that's not it. But we have to find a way to deal with the ones that aren't doing what they should be. Thank you.
Thank you. Gerald Hasbecker.
Although it's an apropos day to be talking about the environment since we have an air quality alert today, and it happens to be 10 of 10, the worst that you could have. And what's that mean? That's largely from pollution and from diesel particles, which are called 2.5 PM particulate matter and are 0.04 microns to 0.9 microns that bypass the defenses of your respiratory system, of all of us. And we can't do anything, but we had a chance to stop both of those, and that's the pollution and the wildfires. And we didn't take that opportunity, but we have an opportunity to keep them from getting worse. And I'd like to specifically talk about a grant that SEMCOG has applied for from the EPA. It's a climate pollution reduction grant in which they would receive $1 million to help create climate action plans within the membership of SEMCOG, and we are a member. That grant would be followed by about $4.6 billion in competitive implementation funding available in 2024. So we would be obligated by May, I believe, to get on board in order to be have a chance at some of this grant money. So each county, each city would have the opportunity to make its own climate action plan that would be in sync with the Michigan Healthy Climate Plan, And the goals are that the plans be transparent, that they have extensive reach and engagement and coordination across the region, that they benefit all low-income and disadvantaged communities. And they have reductions that are measured that make Southeast Michigan competitive for implementation funding, and that reporting and documentation makes it easy to apply for future funding. So I'm just saying that this is coming down the pipe, and we've got a lot of possibility of spending on a lot of money, not solving the problems that we could solve before, but trying to make them from getting worse. Thank you.
Thank you. Gloria Sanker.
First, I have a few words for Angela. Angela, I received your campaign literature making a lot of claims, but I don't trust you, Angela, because you violated the mayor's trust when he endorsed you and helped you get elected. You were a newcomer, and you needed his help to get elected. Nobody knew who Angela Rogencies was. Mayor Fouts helped you, and you since turned away from him and joined the clique of 5 who has recklessly spent taxpayer money on lawsuits and another city attorney that we didn't need. A person who pledges loyalty to someone and then violates that loyalty can't be trusted. You know you sit up there, Angela, as councilwoman because of Mayor Jim Fouts' endorsement. Now, how can we residents trust you, Angela Rogencies, when you didn't keep your commitment to the mayor? My thoughts tonight are, the older candidate is not outdated. Should older people run for office? Why not? Look what they have to offer. They are very well seasoned, experienced, and well concerned. Makes them well qualified. I've spent my whole life in Warren and watched it grow from a township to a city. Older folks are resilient. They have seen more and understand the cause and effect more fully than young people. They are more likely to act on reason than impulse. They probably are more interested in public service than personal wealth. And they probably reject being part of the clique like our present city council is. They more likely care for the common good than public adulation. A mature person surely takes pride in their city and knows through experience what is best.
1 minute.
Vote a senior for government offices. They care about you more than looking for another pension. Vote Gloria Sanker a senior to bring some sensible solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Lindsay Parton.
Okay, hi. Okay, almost all of you are running for re-election, and all of you have stated time and time again your absolute support for the Warren Police Department. I watched all the candidate videos that y'all did, and every one of you said, yep, totally support the police. And that's all you had to say about it. You even say that you'd like to increase funds for the PD. I'm here today to urge each of you to make a statement against the continuous racist and violent acts that the Warren PD has committed. We're all aware of the headlines of Officer Rodriguez completely losing control and attacking a teenager, Jaquan Smith, by punching him in the face, smacking him to the ground, pulling his hair, and launching him into the cell where the young person fell to the ground. I've not heard a single statement from any of you speaking realistically about our police in this incident. So that was the one that made headlines. There are several internal investigations open due to excessive force from Warren officers. Just last month, I personally filmed Officer Gifford throw a man off of his bike get on top of him, and pull a weapon with no cause. 3 hours earlier from that event, Gifford was filmed by another resident repeatedly jabbing his knee into the side of a black woman, where he had her on the ground already in front of her home. Same cop, 3 hours apart, both victims are black. He's still with the department. There are more incidents that weren't filmed by individuals or didn't make the news.
1 minute.
We want to know how you are fixing these issues, this issue. You should be outraged. I wonder why you're not, and I have my own theories. Instead of real action, you blindly vote yes to every police budget increase, and you waive your support for police in your campaigning. Well, guess what? Residents who vote, myself and my neighbors, we're fed up. Your status quo doesn't cut it. The people want change. This is unacceptable. For you, Eddie, Black Lives Matter. I promise you will not be reelected. Justice for Jaquan Smith, justice for Anisha Foster, and justice for Jamel.
Thank you. Curtis Ostosh.
Good evening, Council. How are you this evening? Pastor Curtis Ostosh, resident and pastor here in the city. I'm still frustrated with this issue concerning Parks and Rec. I mean, it was a wreck. Anybody that was here at the last council meeting would agree. The meeting turned into kind of a disaster. But, you know, 2 of the council members told me personally that they would fund Parks and Rec if there was an appropriation or a request for money. There was a request. There was a request for $5.7 million. You guys cut it down to $1 million. It was ARPA money, so I apologize to Councilman Watts. I didn't mention that when I was here last time. The ARPA money was cut from 5.7 to 4.7, and you guys focused on one park at 13 Mile Road. Well, there's 30 parks in our city. So the whole South End, they don't deserve any money. They don't deserve any funding because those monies were stripped from the improvement process, and we're going to spend $1 million that you guys approved without the formal appropriation. You guys somehow made a decision to fund that. I don't know how you arrived to that. You said you were going to have public town hall meetings to discuss the ARPA funds and the parks funding. That never happened. So, I mean, it's just a mystery to me how you guys operate. Then getting to Owen Jack over on 9 Mile. You know, Owen Jack is used by the Warren Civic Theater. It's used for a bunch of different things. But Owen Jack is closed. But Owen Jack only was open so that they could serve senior meals. But then the county pulled the senior meal program from Owen Jack, and then they passed out bus tickets. So we have this wonderful facility. Basically, I've been there for 15 years, and it's only open for senior meals, which are no longer available because of the county. And so there are things going on at Owen Jack, but it's available for rental. That's the city's policy. The kids in Warren don't have the money to pay for that. And the amenities were supposed to be the same, according to certain council members, at Owen Jack as they are here at this facility. That's not true. There's no weight room. There's no, the facilities are of no comparison. And we had a council member saying, well, the facilities at Owen Jack equal this facility. The South End desperately has nothing for our kids. And you guys took the money away and further disenfranchised half the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry Bell?
Oh, Council President Patrick Green. Every other week, your stooges, you send your stooges in, and you have them to attack the mayor. And sometimes they talk about issues that they're not really sincere about. Mr. Rutherford, for instance. Black Lives Matter, huh? What happened when I asked him to endorse me? He looked right over me. Didn't even want to endorse me. Then he comes up and he tells lies about his communications with the mayor. Well, I know about his communications with the mayor, and he's lying. He's lying. And his outrageous messages that he sent, he didn't tell you about that. Then you got your buddy right here, Jeff Schroeder, the puppet master. You know, he controlled all 5 of you guys, your gang of 5. He's your puppet master. He's the reason why we've, millions of dollars in lawsuits? For what? It's cost our city a lot of money. Cost our city a lot of money. You know, and I gotta say, I'm tired of it, and I'm out campaigning every day, pretty much all day, between work and my regular job, because I really want this position, and that would be Angela's position, simply because she's not to be trusted. How do you take somebody's money? You take somebody's endorsement, Angela Rogancy, Councilwoman Angela Rogancy. You take their endorsement, then you turn your back on them. What are you gonna do with us? You're gonna turn your back on us? You're not gonna get reelected. And Councilman Kabasinski, keep doing what you do. You're doing a good job. Mr. Papandrea, thank you for your service. You've did what you did, and it's time to move on, but we thank you. And back to this jack-in-the-box stooge that you have, who I would call a handkerchief head Negro, that comes in and talks about the blacks and what he planned on doing. That's you, Mr. Rutherford. This guy isn't sincere. He's a phony, Uncle Tom. And for anybody that listens to this guy right here, I'm telling you, from the heart, I know Uncle Tom when I see one. He doesn't have anybody's best interest, and he's lying on the mayor. Thank you.
Patricia, regarding Landmark Estates?
Thank you, members of City Council. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Patricia Radice, and I'm here as a representative of Landmark Estates. As we are all aware, Landmark Estates has been a talking point for some time now, both at these public city council meetings as well as in private meetings between our Landmark team and city officials as well as city council members, which many of you have attended with us. It is our opinion that Landmark is being portrayed in an unfair light, and the voice of a small minority is being portrayed as the voice of the majority of residents at Landmark, which is simply not true. This is why we felt it important for us to speak tonight, to again highlight the incredible investments that have been made at Landmark and remind the City Council of the many projects scheduled to continue to take place in order to make Landmark a great place for our residents to call home. We have spoken to every one of our residents, and the vast majority of them have expressed how grateful they are to see all the improvements that have been happening under our new management. Our team has been working tirelessly to execute upon our revitalization plan for Landmark Estates and has made great progress over the past 18 months. As discussed in our previous meetings with city officials as well as city council members, as well as our numerous email updates that have been sent regularly, here are a few of the projects and improvements we've already made at Landmark Estates. Over $500,000 has already been invested into this community over the past 18 months. $250,000 has been spent on water and sewer line upgrades alone. Large tree trimming projects have been completed, and they continue to be completed as required. Pothole repairs and road resurfacing has been completed, and continual repairs are being made as the need arises. Old unsafe homes have been demolished and removed from the property. A horrible rodent infestation has been remedied as we continue regularly professional extermination treatments to
1 minute.
prevent any future from developing. We've also offered residents free services to help clean up their homes as they own in our community. We made an agreement in January with the City of Warren committing in writing to all the improvements we have promised to make at Landmark Estates, and we have upheld every section of that agreement to date. It's stated publicly in a city council meeting last year that filing a nuisance agreement against Landmark Estates would be the first step in shutting the property down. If we adhered to our part of the agreement, what would be the basis of filing a suit against us or trying to potentially shut this community down? Where will our more than 50 residents and their families go when they cannot afford a place to live? Why is the voice of one or two people who are not working with us on the initiative to clean up Landmark Estates, is that being given more weight than the vast majority of happy residents who do work with us to keep the property clean and are thrilled to see the progress that this...
3 minutes, if you could wrap up, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Fred Neenstedt.
Good evening, Council. My name is Fred Neenstedt. I'm from Clinton Township. I'm a friend of Councilman Eddie Kabasinski, and I believe that conservative values have a place in Warren. I would like to know why the council has not had one mention of the Freedom of Information Act requests that have been asking for the poll books data in all of our communities. We're trying to see the voter lists. These voter lists are electronic and they're being deleted immediately after an election. I want to understand how come the council has not said something about this. Where is the outrage? You remember poll books used to write out the long list when a voter came in, voted, you recorded that vote? Would you burn them books? What would you do? But no, when citizens want to see that poll book data, the city of Warren says no. We deleted it. Only the Secretary of State has that data. This should be an outrage in our county, and it is. Some counties have turned this data over, but I don't see Warren participating in it. I see Warren fighting it. I know one councilman who was at the appeals meeting, and he supported the poll book being open to the public. It's public data. We need to know that our qualified voter roll is accurate. By comparing it to the poll book data, we will know, but we are not allowed to see it because the city of Warren says they deleted their poll book data the day after an election. That should be an outrage. When will people understand that elections can only be fair if the people know what's going on? And as far as my friend Eddie Kabasinski, he's fighting for the people. He wants everybody to understand that free speech and the Constitution means something. You may have read something about Eddie in the newspapers. I'm going to ask you, little Bobby, little Susie at a lemonade stand, and they exchange lemonade for a couple dollars? What is that? How about Girl Scout cookies? Exchange of goods? What is that? But I'll ask you one more time. Jehovah's Witness, on the same corner with Eddie, was offering Trump speech, political speech. If Jehovah's Witness was offering quotes from the Bible in exchange for donations, what would that be? I'll tell you what it is. It's protected religious speech. And my good friend Eddie Kabasinski, who's fighting every day for his district, was fighting for our Constitution.
Thank you. Emmanuel?
Hi. Good evening, council members, and good evening, everybody. My name is Emmanuel Ekokutsu. I am the pastor of Christ Embassy, Michigan, with church in Livonia, and I'm here today on behalf of most of our brethren, congregants who are also members of the city of Warren. We're here on a Reach Outward campaign. Basically, our campaign is simple. It's reaching out to city council members like you and also mayors of cities, reminding them of one thing, that they serve the people, but above that, they also answer to God, and that in all that they do, they be fair and just, and keep in mind that there's a God that they respond to as they respond to the people. And also our campaign also goes to pray for you all, that the wisdom of God guides you in your decision-making processes, especially as it impacts citizens of your community. I'm not sure if the mayor is sitting today. This is my first time here, but as part of our campaign, I have here something here for the mayor, so I'd like to present it. If anyone can kindly take this on my behalf, and I pray for you all, city council members, that the wisdom of God guides you in your decisions as you lead your people in justice, righteousness, and truth. Thank you.
Thank you. Kabir Ahmed.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, as well as my beloved resident, as well as council chamber. My name is Kabir Ahmed. Many of you guys doesn't know me. I'm a longtime resident living in Warren, run a family business in here. I wanted to say, each and everyone who's running for candidate, as well as me, I wanted to say good luck to each and everyone. The reason I'm here today, I wanted to invite each and everyone on behalf of Bangladesh Association of Michigan. I wanted to invite each and everyone. We're having a culture event festival going on in City Square at July 1st and 2nd. Please join in with us and support, neighbor, each and everyone. Make this community better. Together we can achieve changes. Thank you all.
Thank you. Joel Vanderlinden.
Joel Vanderlyn, longtime Warren resident. I'm going to collect my thoughts together. Recently on TV, I had to suffer through watching the mayor and the State of the City address. I had numerous problems with it. First of all, the advertisement of his chosen 7. I find it disgusting, illegal, wrong, against all the campaign things. I would like equal time for all the candidates to be spoken of and taken care of properly, not on the city's taxpayer dollar. I also had a problem with Commissioner Nard. Had a hard time walking into the meeting because Pastor Comdick over here's wife was telling her she's not allowed in at the State of the City address. Pastor Comdick's wife is not a member of the city employment. She's not a police officer. She's not an agent. So where does she come off with the right to say who can and who cannot come into the State of the City address? I find it offensive. Angela Rogansey. Guess it's a bad day for you with some of these people. How do you turn your back on the mayor? You turn your back on the mayor, stand by your principles, and you protect the people you were sworn in to do. You did the job of the people, not the job of the mayor. That is your job. Thank you very much. And to have a fellow felon go over here, want to sit here and badmouth you, is sickening. It's It's even worse that you had a felon that was on this council want to come over here and berate your character.
1 minute.
When the word that she should be thinking about when she was on this council is the word bribery. Now, Ms. Rogency, you've been unfairly attacked. As a citizen of Warren, I apologize for their actions. As for Mr. Rutherford, I don't know you, sir. I find you a very honorable man, and I apologize on the true citizens of Warren for the attacks against you. Have a blessed day. Thank you very much.
Next item.
Next item is announcements, 10A, Jerry Burden Resolution. Mr. President, Ms. Rogency asked for this to be placed on the agenda.
Motion.
Motion to approve.
Support Lafferty.
Support Lafferty. Ms. Rogency.
Thank you, Mr. President. If Mr. Burden could come up, if I could read it from
Wherever you
down
like.
below. Thank you. So this is a very special resolution honoring Jerry Burden for his 50 years of service to the League of Women Voters. Whereas Mr. Jerry Burden is a Warren resident, retired police officer, active volunteer with CERT, and robust voice at Warren Senior Housing. Whereas Jerry is a member of the League of Women Voters, which is a nonpartisan grassroots organization working to protect and expand voting rights and ensure everyone is represented in our democracy. The League empowers voters and defends democracy through advocacy, education, and litigation at the local, state, and national levels. Whereas Jerry is one of 2 men to first join the League of Women Voters ever. Whereas Jerry was awarded the Helen Milliken Leadership and Civic Empowerment Award for hosting over 600 League of Women Voter educational and candidate forums, and he was awarded in 2013. Whereas Jerry was recently acknowledged by the League of Women Voters of the United States for 50 years of service to the League, with its president, Dr. Deborah Turner, noting, "Your dedication and continued contribution through the years are what makes the League one of the most effective and powerful organizations in the country. It is the generous gift of time and other personal resources you've given that creates meaningful change in communities here and throughout the world. May your service stand as a model for the generations to follow." Whereas Jerry's service to civic engagement and democracy is beyond commendable and a true gift to our city, state, and country. Resolution declared adopted this 27th day of June, 2023. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Burden. Any other announcements? Mr. Kabazinski.
I'm sorry, I didn't have the button on, Mr. President.
That's okay.
So I just, we discussed this, or there was discussed yesterday at the Planning Commission meeting, but I just received this information. It's from the National Institute on Drug Control Policy, and it has to do with marijuana and the teen brain. States with legalized marijuana rank top in teen use. It says, share this information with your child or teen today. What the research has told us, the brain is not fully developed until the mid-20s and can be permanently damaged by marijuana use. Marijuana use is linked to school failure, lower income, and poor quality of life. Marijuana has negative effects on attention, motivation, memory, and learning. Users are much, and they put this in bold underlined print, more likely to get lower grades and drop out of school. These facts were provided by the National Institute on Drug Control Policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional announcements?
Mr. President?
Mr. Watts.
I got a couple items. Number one, our Warren CERT team is having a fundraiser on this Thursday, June 29th, from 5 p.m. to 8:45 at Leeson's Dairy Bar, 11475 13 Mile, just west of Hoover. They're also going to do it again on the 27th, August 24th, or July 27th, August 24th, and again on September 21st. Part of the proceeds from your purchase, I guess, goes to the CERT team. So it helps pay for the equipment that they use to go out and do good things for the community. They help with roadblocks, down wires, the parades, the Cruisin' 53, the fun run they have. They do a lot of great things, and they take all the money out of their own pocket. So this helps them buy their supplies they need. And I'll add to that, on, I think it was Sunday evening, we had the storms, and one of their people had their car hit by a fleeing motorist on Stevens. So he's incurred damage to his car. I don't know how that'll all play out between insurance and the city, but these guys go out, and gals go out every time there's any kind of emergency or event and work their butt off for nothing. So if we can throw some support their way, I think it's a great thing. So that's that.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Woods.
I got another one here. I just want to try to clear up. I had to clear this up at the last meeting, and I'm going to clear it up again. The good pastor came up and said that we cut $4.7 million. That's not the truth. Get the story straight. We told the mayor and the administration to come and meet with us, bring a plan. You don't send a piece of paper over and say, I want $5.7 million with no plan. We're glad to give the money, but we need a plan. We want a written plan of where the money's going to go. You wouldn't write a check to somebody for that and expect and just guess what you're going to get. We want to get things done. And I've been down to Owen Jack's a couple times. It is indeed closed during the day. We actually have a couple residents complaining that people are using the park and they got no place to go to the restrooms at, and they're going to the neighbors and asking to use their restrooms. So I think the good citizens of South Warren deserve to have the community center open. They deserve to have some stuff going on, place to go. The building's just sitting there in deterioration because it's not being used. So I think it should be open, and I'll continue to fight for that. That's all I have, Mr.
Thank you, Mr.
President.
Watts. Any other announcements? Next item.
Next item is 11A. It's a public hearing, request of Manzik & Son located at 22642 Ryan Road to retain an existing business sign within the right-of-way.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the audience who would like to speak regarding this item? Hearing or seeing none, I close the public hearing. Turn the item over to council if the petitioner wants to come up.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion to approve by Moore, support by Watts. And if I recall correctly from conversation, this is Ryan Road expanded and encroached closer to the existing sign and building. And it's, we either give them the variance here or they have to move the building. I think they were there first, my opinion.
Can we talk, or?
Go ahead.
Basically, all we're doing is, we had a name change from E.J. Manzik & Son to Manzik & Son. So we wanted to update the sign. So the sign has been there for 56 years that we've, since 1956. And all we want to do is spruce it up. And when we went to go and do that, they said that it's in the right-of-way, and it's been there since 1956. It was changed once, because it was just Eugene Manzik, then or E.J. Manzik, it became E.J. Manzik & Son. Now we're just making it Manzik & Son. So it's just a name change. We just want to change the sign to follow that.
So it's here because it's in the right-of-way, not zoning board because it's a use?
Because
Because it's not a setback, it's it's encroaching on the right-of-way.
that's where it's always been. So they want us to move it back into the parking lot. If we want to do a name change, they said, otherwise you can't do the name change and leave it as it is.
Okay. Questions?
Mr. President,
Mr. Kabzinski?
if it's been there for so long, why is this not being just grandfathered in?
Because once you change something over a certain percentage, you lose the non-conforming use, which is known as grandfathering. And since they're changing it more than 50%, I'm assuming that's the rule of thumb. That's why they have to come here.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
The changing it more than 50%, we're not changing the size of it, it's just the lettering on it.
Understood.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Mr. Watts?
So you're just changing the sign face to correct the saying. So you're not changing the size, you're not rebuilding it, you're not putting any more,
We're not moving it, we're not,
this is a no-brainer.
not bigger, small, it's just we're taking off the EJ.
I have a handout if anybody wants to.
We're good.
Seen it? Okay.
Anybody else? Call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Ms. Rogancy?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. All set.
Nice to see you. Take care.
Thank you.
Point of order.
What's your point of order?
It was mentioned during audience participation that we had on the agenda a
Oh, the veto override.
veto
We do-
override.
Nope.
Ms. Moore, that is not on the agenda.
Correct.
False statement.
Okay. I wanted to make sure that the audience and anybody watching understood that we do not have a veto override on tonight's agenda.
You're correct.
Thank you.
Can I add to that?
You have a point of order as well. Please, go ahead.
It's not a junkyard, it's a recycling yard, so I think the citizens need to have the right information.
It's not zoned for a junkyard.
Right, it's zoned for recycling.
M2.
Right.
Anybody else? Next item.
Next item is 12A, request of the city treasurer to open a money market account with PNC Bank. Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion by Moore, support by Watts. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm sorry, does this require a roll call vote? It's not there's no money transacted.
Not transacting money, no.
Did you want to address it at all, Treasurer Barnwell?
Thank you, President Green and the rest of council. I thank you for hearing my item tonight. So by law, when there are bond funds, they have to be designated into a separate account. Not only is it by law, but it actually makes things a lot more convenient for my department as well as controllers, so we know where we're at as we use those funds throughout the project. Happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Mr. President?
Ms. Moore?
Little off topic. When we asked for the opioid monies to be put in a separate account, are you aware of whether that has been done? Is there's a separate account set up for that?
Thank you for asking that question, Councilwoman Moore. We are guided by the Controller's Office as far as the laws that when we have to open a specific account by law. So I believe Councilman Lafferty asked that question a couple meetings ago, so I reached out to our city attorney's office as well as controllers. Controllers was more than happy to also chime in on that email and ask for clarification. The city attorney's office has not responded to several of my inquiries, of my office inquiries in response to this.
Because nationally and statewide, the first thing they recommend doing is to have a separate account and segregate those funds. So that's, pardon me? And we passed a resolution to do that, so I can't imagine it wouldn't be done, but I appreciate you looking into it.
Yes,
If you'll keep on top of it, I appreciate it.
Yes, no, I also agree that it should be in a separate account, but unfortunately, our process, the controller's office has to initiate that request, and then I would be the one to open it. So like I said, myself as well as the controller's office is waiting to hear back from the city attorney. They wanted to ask the city attorney. I personally think it's very clear that we do need an account, but like I said, neither the controller's office nor my department has heard back from the city attorney.
And we passed a resolution, so, I mean, it's, okay. Thank you, I'm not gonna, yeah.
Any additional?
Mr. President.
Mr. Kaczynski?
And Ms. Barnwell, good evening.
Hi.
How much money are we putting into this money market account?
I want to say it's around 25 million was the amount of the bond.
Okay, and what do you see as the financial solvency for PNC Bank at this time, ma'am?
I think, like I said, there's nationwide concerns about regional banks, like we talked about the last meeting. But PNC, has been very proactive in letting their customers, as well as the financial industry in general, know where they stand as a bank and their solvency and those things. And I have been satisfied with what has come out from them, their financial reports, things that they are doing as far as increasing their balances and deposits, and really trying to be more proactive. So I think those are things that really put customers and the financial industry in general at ease.
Do you foresee a need for a backup plan in case something goes awry?
I think that, like I said, we as a department and us as financial experts, if you will, we always try to be 2-3 steps ahead, and I think that's very important. With everything that happened with Comerica and is currently kind of happening there, we have definitely things in place if something were to happen with that particular financial institution. Though I am concerned, and though we're taking these issues very seriously, it's not something that I feel is a red alert at this point. But I do think it's using wisdom to have, in your words, backup plans and things that would take place if something like that were to occur.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I yield.
Any others? Call the question, Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Or we already voted on this.
Did we?
Sorry.
We did.
I did it all together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item is 12B, request for approval of the city's public entity property and casualty liability insurance program effective July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2024, and third-party administrator services, consideration of a resolution. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Any discussion? Call the question, Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Ms. Rogency?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Thank you.
13A, discussion in Ray Landmark Estates. Motion to approve with discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. For discussion, Ms. Moore?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. There is some communication going around to folks at the Landmark Estates, and I would like to sort of pitch this to our council attorney, Mr. Schroeder, to perhaps draft a letter, and it'll come from the council to the residents there to sort of clarify what the status is of what our position is and what is going on, what is not going on, to clarify, because people are calling, and there seems to be some confusion. I know other people have some discussion about other things, but that's my part of it, that I think that we should, draft a letter out of, and Ms. Camp will see that those get out. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Mr. President?
Mr. Watts?
I would agree with that. I received, I believe, 4 or 5 calls between last night and today, and an email that they're apparently telling them that we voted to throw them out of the park. That's not true. We voted to get the place cleaned up and get it brought up to city standards, which needs to be done because there's problems over there that are actually falling into the residential neighborhoods surrounding there as far as the rodent issue and stuff. So we need to get that cleaned up. The young lady came to the mic earlier under audience, and she said they paved the roads. Well, I happened to be on the phone with a Mr. Walker Meadows a few months ago, and he told me that he'd paved the road, and I happened to be about a mile away. And I saw, I'm right around the corner. Let me drive in there while I got you on the phone. Well, paving the roads was cold patch in the potholes and some asphalt sealant, black sealant. They weren't paved. And there was some other things that we went over that he said they had done, and I found that they really hadn't done that. There's some issues over there, and I certainly don't want anybody to be displaced. And if they need to be displaced because they have to do some work, then Open Door Properties / Landmark Estates needs to get their business in order and help these people out and either put them in another unit, you know, whatever it needs to take to be done. But that is far from the truth, the rumors that they're throwing out to the people over there. You know, we're here to help, and we're here to make sure that the city has safe, clean places to live in. Nobody should have to go through that. So obviously they all got our phone numbers now, so my phone's always on. I'm willing to take any call, so.
Thank you, Mr. Watts.
Mr. President,
Mr. Papandrea?
I also would like to put on the record, I received a call from a resident of Landmark Estates. She was also concerned, while improvements are always welcome, and I think this council wants to work for improvements over there, she was worried about being displaced, and, you know, their rent is, I asked her how much she paid to live there, and it was about $430 a month. So, you know, what can you find for $130 a month? And they're concerned about that. So, of course, we want improvements, but we have to take these concerns into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional?
Mr. President.
Mr. Kaczynski?
We heard it from the gentleman earlier today during the audience about Woodview. And this seems to be something pervasive, I guess, throughout the city. And I guess we learned through our meeting that I guess this is a problem throughout the country as well. It's not only here that we're dealing with it in Michigan. It seems like there should be a standard form for these types of businesses and types of lots for the upkeep of the maintenance. And I think what needs to be visited once we fix this issue here is how it got this far and how it was allowed to get this bad, and where there were not, if there were to be proper inspections done, what happened, if there should have been a better reporting mechanism for the residents, either through the city or through the state or the county, what would that have been, or what can that be? If this is an issue that we'll have to do with multi-jurisdictional, such as the city, the state, and the county, then that needs to be figured out as well. But nobody should have to go through this, I agree, but there was a mechanism to start this, and it seriously got out of control. So I think part of solving the problem is also what caused the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional? What's our motion?
Motion is to send the item to Mr. Schroeder to draft a letter, which he will get with Ms. Camp. Ms. Camp will send it to the residents of that complex, and just to communicate what's going on.
Thank you. Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Next item is 13B, discussion in Ray, Michigan Campaign Finance Act violation, misuse of city resources. Motion to approve.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion, Ms. Moore.
Thank you. I think most of you are aware that the State of the City speech last Thursday has been described as an airing of grievances rather than a statement of what's going on in the city, and it was certainly not a positive vision for our city. Near the end of the speech, the mayor did a 12-minute segment where he announced his candidate endorsements. The communications department and TV Warren got the candidates' photos and made special graphics promoting their candidacy. This is a clear violation of the Michigan Campaign Finance Act. It is illegal in Michigan to use city resources to assist a political campaign committee when there is not equal time for all candidates, like the Meet the Candidates videos that everyone is given 3 minutes. This video is running 1 to 2 times a day, every day on TV Warren. The 2016 State of the City speech also resulted in a violation and a fine because it was a political fundraiser and invitations were sent in the water bills and city workers were staffing the event. This is illegal conduct and it should be stopped immediately. The mayor is free to criticize us all he wants in his speech. We can take the heat. But he cannot use the city government channel to make political endorsements and then run the video over and over like a campaign commercial. This is not Russia nor North Korea, where the leader uses the government TV channels for their own political propaganda. I make a motion to request our legal counsel to file a complaint with the Secretary of State. Correspondence be sent to the communications director advising her that this is unlawful and they should not be airing campaign commercials or endorsements without equal time. Thank you.
Mr. Lafferty, you support the
I do.
discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Watts?
So I watched the recorded that's up on Vimeo, and I have to tell you, it's disgusting, it's embarrassing, and he should be ashamed of himself. This is the 3rd largest city of the state, and that was on the news. Those comments were on the news. Unbelievable. And again, I could take it. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. He's called me much worse in my 4 years. And, you know, for the 4 years that we've been on council, nobody has been, well, most of us haven't been invited to State of the City. I don't care whether you like us or not. We're part of the program. We're part of the program. And here we are having to go into this again. This might wind up in litigation again. And for those that like to come to the microphone and like to scream, you spend millions of dollars. Well, let me tell you something. We've spent a lot of money on lawsuits, and every one of them we've won because he violated the city charter. The city charter is there for a reason, and he violated it. End of story. It's very easy. I think everybody that's running should get some equal time for what he's done. It's just, this is just unbelievable, and it just keeps going. And then Ms. Rogancy, I feel for her, you know, it's all over Facebook and what have you, that he thought he bought her vote. I think that's illegal too. I think buying votes is illegal. So,
A former
folks,
council person got charged with that.
yep.
Convicted.
You know, for those that like that don't understand the criminal proceedings here that's happening, if you're going to sit on this council, you better understand the charter and you better understand the laws. Otherwise, it's going to be the same thing all over again. So the citizens of this community deserve a lot better than they're getting, and it's going to change. It's definitely going to change. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional?
Mr. President,
Ms. Moore?
I want to follow up on that, you know, that whole discussion about you support somebody and give them money at a fundraiser. That's not the way it works. People support candidates because they think they'll do a good job and they donate to fundraisers to help somebody get the word out. And to think that giving money, that person will vote exactly how you want them all the time.
Or tell them.
Pardon me?
How they tell them.
Yeah, tell them to vote. It's just not right. It's not legal, and I cannot believe that this is spewed all over TV. It's just not fair. It's not right. Just to go back a little bit, when I was elected the first time to City Council, and Mayor Steenberg was a big supporter of mine, and we had lunch before I took office, and you know what he asked me? He said, the only thing I ever ask of you is that if I make a phone call, that you'll take my call and that you would be willing to discuss items with me. That was the only thing that man ever asked of me. Never told me how to vote, never threatened me, never did this childish stuff that's going on from this mayor. That's how a real mayor acts. That's how a real man acts. That's how a secure man acts, not this childish, tantrum, baby, insecure acts. It's just sickening. Thank you.
Mr.
Any
President.
additional? Mr. Lafferty?
I've spoken about this a couple of times. Council, remember that I've called out the lack of a communications commission. And the Communications Commission, formerly known as the Cable Commission, is designated by charter. It's in existence in charter, yet it does not exist in practice. And items like this could be avoided if we had a Communications Commission in place that becomes a governing body to ensure that the airwaves, our print media, text messaging, anything that happens to be within the communication mediums are effectively governed. That's the job of the Communications Commission. Yet it doesn't exist, and it hasn't existed for several years. I wonder why that is. And then we have a problem like the one that Ms. Moore just described, and we see the results. There's absolutely no accountability on TV Warren. The use of it, the use of the media that you pay for with your tax dollars. You're paying for a communications department, a dozen people or so, and a director that makes a very handsome salary, and there is absolutely no accountability. Well, they're accountable to one person that has absolutely zero accountability as to the content that's put on the airwaves. This is the result of malfeasance, abuse, and simply ignoring the charter. Mr. Watts made reference to that. We've ended up in court over it several times. We shouldn't be having these types of problems. I've called for it before. I will call for it again. We need a communications commission established to ensure the effective use of the airwaves and all forms of modern communication within the city. Thank you.
Any additional?
Mr. President,
Mr. Kaczynski?
I didn't see it, so I'm unaware of any of this.
Okay,
I don't have cable. I can't afford it.
thank you. Call the question, Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
No.
Mr. Kaczynski?
No.
Ms. Rogancy?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passes 5-2. Next item.
Next item is 14A, request.
14C,
I'm sorry.
responsible
Yep,
contracting.
I'm sorry. The next item is discussion in Ray, fire stations and responsible contracting ordinance. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion?
Thank you, Mr. President. It has come to my attention that the RFP for the fire stations is up, which is great, because we need new fire stations. And also, the responsible contracting ordinance is not published, which, you know, a number of these projects, the intention of the responsible contracting ordinance is to ensure that appropriate contractors get city dollars, and now this RFP will be out and people will be bidding on it without an ordinance that we pass that should be published and should be guiding the procurement process. I don't know what the recourse is, but the court also will be at some point soon building, and that again is more taxpayer dollars that should be going to the most responsible contractor.
Right.
I don't know what, I would love to hear what the possible remedy is for this without the ordinance being published.
Mr. Schroeder, could you weigh in on that as far as, you know, we had a court case that there was direction as far as ordinances being published, and the clerk's response has been, the city attorney hasn't sent it to us. When it leaves our table here and goes to City Hall, there's a reasonable expectation on our part that everybody at City Hall works together, whether it be the city attorney's office or the clerk. And if we pass an ordinance today and it gets sent over to the city attorney's office, to review as to form, wouldn't, I guess I expect that the clerk's going to say, hey, this was sent over a month ago, where is it? As opposed to sitting on their hands and doing nothing.
Mr. President, there were 2 court cases involving the obligation of the city to publish ordinances that have been passed by the city council. The first court case was in front of Honorable Richard Coretti, and this was in January of 2021. We sat in the courthouse all day with the mayor and his lawyers.
Remember that.
And it was a 9 or 10 hour session with no food or water. And it was the judge's way of making us put our heads together, and it worked. And one of the resolutions was that any ordinances passed by the council shall be published after the city attorney has a 15-day period to review those ordinances. It also said the council can pass its own ordinances. The council is the legislative body of the city. The problem was the council would send an ordinance or resolution to the attorney's office, and they would decide they didn't like it, or the mayor would decide he didn't like it, and then the council never got what it voted for, what it asked for as the legislative body. So they actually agreed to do this. And the city council office has been in compliance with this court order. Every time an ordinance is passed, there's a result letter that is sent to the administration with a copy of the ordinance, and we wait that 15-day period, which actually means that ordinances we passed at the last meeting aren't on this agenda for a second reading because we're giving them the time period to do a review. Now, the city attorney has all this time to review the ordinance and provide a memo to the council saying, I would change this, I would change that. They have done no review letters on any ordinance that the council has passed in the last 3 years. Now, that aside, having agreed to publish these ordinances, after working out a procedure, we went back and forth and worked out a procedure because Judge Coretti had a really good idea. Why don't you guys try to work it out? And we did. But as soon as they signed the agreement, that was it. They got themselves out of the courthouse that day, but that's all they accomplished because they did not follow anything in that. And then separately, they tried what's called a collateral attack in the court. The mayor filed his own lawsuit. Yes, the mayor was the plaintiff. He filed his own lawsuit against this council so he didn't have to implement the budget, and he tried to get another judge to void all the ordinances, all these 7 or 8 ordinances that the council have passed, the veterans ordinance, the diversity ordinance, the responsible contractor ordinance, the open government, all these ordinances, he wanted the court to void them because it was drafted by someone other than the city attorney. We went through summary disposition in front of Judge Michael Servito. He granted summary disposition in favor of the city council, saying that that argument was without merit, that the charter clearly says that the council can draft its own ordinances, and the only thing they can do is review it and provide a review letter. We won. We won twice on this, and they're still refusing to do it. So with respect to the question, really the only option we have is to go back to court. And I'm hearing a situation where now that there's RFPs being issued for millions and millions of dollars of projects.
Tens of millions.
Tens of millions of dollars worth of projects, and there's an ordinance that would govern how these dollars are spent to make sure that the contractors meet a minimum criteria, to make sure that workers get a fair wage, you know, to make sure that all of these public policy things that this council voted on are going to be implemented. And so I see an opportunity to maybe go, I really, really do not want to go back and knock on the door at the court. I really don't. I mean, this is tough work. It's a tough job. And I understand people are tired of lawsuits, but we have a choice. We are going to spend tens of millions of dollars, fire stations, a new courthouse, and all this hard work that was done with the council, the labor unions, and other interested parties in the city it won't even be the law. It's almost like it was just an exercise in futility, and all this money is going to be spent. Or we go to court and we just say, sorry, Your Honor, we want this ordinance published. It's the clerk's duty to publish the ordinance. The clerk is saying, well, I haven't received it from the attorney. Well, that's the same as saying, well, you know, the attorney told me to put the mayor's name back on the ballot for the next 4 elections, so I'm just going to do what the attorney tells me. Well, at some point, you can't keep listening to the same person who's giving you the wrong answer. So the only option we have is to just go to court and say there's tens of millions of dollars about to be spent, and we have an ordinance that's not implemented. I can't think of another option unless somebody here, maybe Mr. Papandrea, if you could send an envoy to the mayor's office, we'd be certainly willing to help. But to try to get this done. I mean, I'm at a loss because, you know, I worked with you for many years. I just don't know what else to do other than to go to court to get this ordinance published.
I enjoyed working with you, Jeff.
Thank you.
I wish we could work together
Yeah.
again.
Well,
someday.
let's try.
Yeah.
It's good you didn't answer the question.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's my answer.
Ms. Moore?
I just want to clarify something. The 15 days for the city attorney's office to review the ordinance just allows them to review it, and they can write a memo, they can call us up, say we don't like it, we think it's great, whatever. But we don't have to listen to anything they say, and we don't have to change the ordinance. The ordinance is our ordinance. Now, if they had a good idea, we would change it. Mr. Schroeder has done that. When they've had an idea about something, he goes, oh yeah, that's a good idea, let's do that. We're not averse to that. We would do that, but we're not even getting that. And I'm concerned that the clerk is saying for 26 years it's been done, that they've not been doing their job. I can't believe that that would be the case. And Ms. Camp, I walked over. I didn't mean to be rude to anybody, but I wanted to clarify something with Ms. Camp. That when we send the results of what actions this council takes, those go out on Friday, and those are sent to a general server where, an internal, where people can access them, but they're sent specifically to the mayor and the clerk's office, correct?
Mayor, attorney, and clerk are CC'd on everyone.
On everyone. So the clerk gets a copy, so she knows what she's supposed to be doing. And I'm sure she got a copy of the court order, because I think she was a party to some of the lawsuits over the years, but I'm sure she would have. I mean, we've talked about it enough. I think just out of curiosity, she might have asked, where's this court order that the court ordered me to do something? I would think you'd want to know what that said. So, and we've tried to get her to get the clerk to do, to just publish them. We begged and begged and begged. She's not done it, so I don't think there's anything we're going to be able to work out with the clerk's office, because she's just steadfastly refused to do her job.
Ms. Rogansey? So with that conversation, what do you want the motion to be? We had conversation on it. I mean, Mr. Schroeder said what our only action could be, is a show cause.
Yeah, it's an incredibly tough decision because I don't want to spend any more money going to court. And I also, you know, we are the legislative arm of the city, and the ordinance should exist, and we are about to spend a ton of money on RFPs with various, whoever bids on them, and the governing document that would be helping to ensure that that is spent appropriately in accordance with this body is not there. I am at a bit of a loss on what to do.
Jump in for a minute?
Mr.
just one
President.
sec. It's not just this.
Go ahead, clarify.
Yeah, so we're dealing with this issue right now because we're going to be doing a lot of construction projects coming up. That's one issue. But there are other things that are very important for us to do. We've got a veterans memorial that's in disrepair that needs to be taken. We need a Veterans Commission. We want the Veterans Commission, the advisory board, to weigh in on opioid things. I think they might have something to say about that. We need to get the diversity coordinator hired. We need to get the good government ordinance passed so that residents are able to get free information online to see what their government is doing. So it's not just this one issue that we're looking at. I mean, I think maybe will make it easier for us to make a decision. A show cause in it.
Discrimination ordinance that we just passed that's going to sit there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that.
No, but I don't think this is huge litigation. This is a show cause. So this isn't a whole big lawsuit, you know, discovery, all this stuff. We've already got a ruling. There's been a violation of the ruling. It's very clear. There's a good record already on that not following the court order, and I don't think it's huge. I know you don't want to do it. Nobody wants to right now because I'm burned out I don't want to deal with another lawsuit, but we need to get these things done.
It's enforcement of the settlement.
Is that considered contempt, what he's doing?
Thank you, Joel.
Mr. President, could we include all of the ordinances?
It would.
Oh, yeah,
it would.
The diversity, equity, all of the unpublished ordinances, if we're going to do this. The urgency around this particular moment is the spending of city dollars, but ensuring that all of the ordinances are published, that would.
So they're not languishing on a desk somewhere. Mr. Lafferty?
Just a question through the chair to Mr. Schroeder. Was the clerk already ordered to publish these ordinances in a previous litigation?
The clerk has been party to litigation, but the actual two cases where we dealt with the publishing of the ordinances, it was the mayor was the party, but the city attorney was involved in the litigation as well. And we have a situation here where the clerk is pointing her finger at the city attorney, saying, well, the city attorney won't sign off on it, that's our procedure. That procedure is not in the charter, by the way, it's not in the ordinances. It's just an internal procedure they've had for years that they've put form over substance, or in this particular case. And she said, well, if the city attorney won't sign off on it, I won't publish it. So we have to get creative, and essentially, we do have documents. I do believe Mr. President Green may have a document where the clerk indicated to him in writing that it's the attorney who's holding this up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we could show cause the attorney who is, essentially, obstructing the court order here.
All right, that's where I wanted to go, that we do have a roadblock that sounds like contempt, and it needs clarification. Ultimately, what I would also like to see as part of this motion is a clarification and interpretation by the court of our charter, which I think it's very fair to ask a third party to say, what does the charter in its plain language say about the order for the ordinances to go through?
I don't want to expand it. We've already got a settlement. We need to stay within the boundaries of the settlement, or that's additional litigation.
I don't think we're going to get to any of this stuff in the next 4 months.
I doubt.
I don't think there's an urgency. I think we can probably wait till November, honestly.
Yeah, I doubt that the mayor is going to just fall to his knees and say, okay, Judge, I'll do whatever you tell me. He hasn't done that so far. I don't see it happening. Again, avoiding costly litigation, if there was a simple method to ask for an injunction, ask for the legal intervention to release our ordinances that we have dutifully passed, and without further obstruction, I mean, what would it take to get us there? And I just don't understand how someone who has been elected for so long can stand in the way of government that he taught for so many years. I don't understand it.
Mr. President?
Thank you.
Maybe, perhaps we should table this item, have Mr. Schroeder do some research, and then we'll have a closed session on the issue and decide whether we want to go forward or not.
Mr. President?
I like that.
Mr. Watts?
I'll let Mr. Watts.
Just before you table. We sat here and we listened to so many people come up here under audience and talk about all the bad things that we've done. And here we are once again showing where the administration hasn't done their job, and they're in violation of the charter, and they're in violation of 2 court cases. Now, I see that clearly in my eyes, I'm no attorney, as contempt. And believe me, as what we've been through in the last 3.5 years, I'd love to see that man in handcuffs, because enough is enough. He has cost this city a lot of money, and City Hall is obviously very toxic. We have to resolve this, and we have to do it for the people. We have to do it for the people, because if another mayor comes in, and says, oh, look, he got by with all that, I think I'm going to do the same thing. Can't have that. I mean, I don't know that we would have a person that would be that way, but you just never know. I don't know, it's troubling to me. I see the good Mr. Kiesadowski sitting out there in the audience. He could probably answer this. What do you think would happen if somebody would have done this to Fouts when he was on the council? that meeting would have probably went till 7, 8 o'clock the next night. So,
Stay on
just,
this topic.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I've been to those council meetings, and I couldn't imagine, you know, and I don't know. It just boggles my mind that we have a set amount of people that come every time and complain about all this stuff, and then some of them are running for office, and they don't understand how the system works. You have to understand.
You have to want to learn.
So, and you have to want to learn, not just spew off the wrong information. So that's all I got. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, motion to table.
Support, Rogan C.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion's tabled, or items tabled. Next item.
14A, request of the fire department to waive the bidding process and authorize the purchase of 4 EMS transport squads from Emergency Vehicles Plus, EV Plus, at a cost of $302,817 per vehicle at a total cost of $1,211,268. Motion to approve.
Support with discussion.
Motion by Watts, motion by Moore, support by Watts.
Discussion.
Discussion, Mr. Watts.
So, we certainly need these vehicles in the worst way. And, you know, going forward, yeah, I knew they'd be coming to the table. I thought, you know, it's an easy vote. But last week, unfortunately, we had one of our last delivered EMS units in an accident, and it appears that it's probably totaled. And in some discussion today, and calling around, we're finding out that these vehicles, these 4 vehicles, were potentially, we could have been able to get maybe 2 of them this September, and now it's been pushed out till, guess what, 2024 September. That's a very, very serious situation, in my opinion. You know, we need these 4. I'm told we only have 2 backups at this point in time. We have 6 ambulances on the road daily, and believe me, they're running probably 60, 70 runs a day. And they wear out fast, they break down all the time. You know, my intent coming to the table tonight after a lot of discussion, I talked to some manufacturers today about how long it was going to take to get rigs and what have you, was to add, obviously I wanted to come and add the 1 because if it's total, let's get it in the hopper and let's get it going so we can get it as soon as we can. But my thought was to add 6, but I think we're going to have to actually make that a separate item after some discussion before we sat down at the table. So I'd like to add the 1 rig to the to this purchase if we can, along with the necessary equipment that would have been damaged in the rig. So,
Mr. President? So we're adding 4. We need to add 1 for the replacement, and then we're going to add another on top of that.
I'd like to add 6, so
Okay, so we need to add for each, as I understand it, I don't know what's going to be salvageable from the wrecked squad, but we're going to need 134,000. We're going to have probably life pack monitors, load and stretcher, Lucas device, contractual services for the preventive maintenance and those.
Commissioner says the life pack and the Lucas is good.
They're good?
Yes.
Okay, but we'll still need those for new squads, not the replacement, correct? Or can we pull them out of, do we have them in any squads we're going to replace?
As
I'm getting to know too much about these trucks now.
As I understood what council did back in May is you added a 4th squad as well as the big equipment, which included the lift system, the cot, the Lucas, and the life pack.
And the contractual services.
and the
for PM,
contracts
for
to
PM.
support those.
Yeah.
So that you've taken care of that when you added the fourth squad.
Okay.
The squad that was hit by the Kenilworth, which there's an imprint on the squad box.
Don't even tell me, I don't even want to see it.
Believe me, I didn't want to see it either, but.
Heartbreaking, I'm sure.
The patient lift system is torqued. We believe the company will come out and make a final determination on it, but that's a $5,000 question mark if they can repair it. The box is pushed in and the floor is bent. The vehicle's totaled. There is one company who wants to look at it, but that's based on trying to salvage the chassis and put a new box on it. Yesterday, we were informed that to order a box will take 1 year plus,
When did this one go into service?
5 weeks ago.
Oh, so it's got the nice emblem in the front and everything.
Yes. It has approximately 1,000 miles on it.
Is that the one at 1 that we were there for?
Station
Yes.
1, yeah.
That we saw him push it in?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, no.
It couldn't be the old one.
Right.
It had to be the new one. So
Mr. Watts, you want to add additional funds for replacing the damaged vehicle and?
Yeah, because we're going to get some kind of insurance reimbursement if it's totaled.
Well, that we,
And if it,
But we need to get it in the pipeline.
and if it's not, I'd rather get in the pipeline, because we're going to buy, next budget year, I'm sure that somebody's going to be buying a couple more ambulances, so it's not like we have to pay for them now. Let's get them in the system.
We were advised yesterday at the earliest, the 4 that you are going to approve tonight, at the earliest, the chassis will be delivered next September,
Mr. President?
which were supposed to be here in September of this year. They were supposed to have already been delivered. There's 90 to 120 days to build it from that point, and they would be delivered here in September. We're probably looking at 2024, September, most likely 2025. So basically, the fire commissioner for the next fiscal year in December would probably be requesting at least 2 squads, if not 3, because they're probably going to be 3 years out from that following July, when the actual budget would be adopted, or it would come into place.
I think we should go ahead and do it.
But right now, back in 2020, the company reserved 9 chassis for the Warren based upon our relationship with them. To date, we've taken delivery of 3. With your action tonight or more, and then later on, we can, whatever you do tonight, if it's 4 or 5, well, however you do that.
Well, Mr. Watts wants, Councilman Watts wants to add 2 more tonight. Do you, for your fleet, number of vehicles in the fleet, do you need that right now, or can it wait till the next budget cycle? Because you just said you had 9 ordered and 3 delivered.
I believe that if you wait to the final report, I would be happy to take a replacement one, waiting upon the final report, and if it comes back by a miracle and says it's not, then we wouldn't we wouldn't take action until the next budget year. But if it is, then there's a chance it could be delivered with those other squads. We've got to call into the company president, given our circumstance and our relationship, to maybe speed up delivery of one.
Do you have money in your budget for that, those additional two?
No, because, no, I have not.
Okay.
I did not budget for that, no.
Mr. President.
Mr. Watts?
So here's where I'm at. We put in the budget a 7th EMS unit and the manpower to staff that effective July the 1st or sometime, hopefully right thereafter. So we were ordering, he was ordering 4 to account for that 7th rig. So we were going to get 3 that was going to take care of the main line that would give us all 6 ambulances on the front row would be brand new, and then there would be the 7th one, which is the 4th. But based on the facts with an accident and the call volume and it's a year and a half out the way we're looking at it right now. I mean, if some miracle, if they got some chassis in, would be great. We don't have to take them all at one time, but we need to get them in. We can't be without ambulances. We're at 20. This is the highest call volume we've ever had in this city. We're going to be probably 22,000 runs this year, and I don't know, 90-some% is probably
Medical.
EMS medical runs. We're taking in, we're billing, $9-10 million a year. We're taking in whatever the number is under that, and I just think that we need to be proactive instead of reactive. I mean, a few years ago, we bought a used fire truck from Sterling Heights. That shouldn't be happening. We need to have equipment on order and start staggering those rigs coming in.
So, go ahead, Ms.
I just was, if we put these in the pipeline, if down the road, say in a year, we decide we don't need that, we probably won't have a hard time releasing, because there's probably plenty of people out in the world that want those chassis that.
Yes, there is time to release anything, because until actually it's built specifically for us, it's just a work order. And that work order is not starting till 2024.
I think it's smart to reserve them.
So, we add, Mr. Watts?
Yeah.
My recommendation is we do the resolution as stated with the amendment that Commissioner McAdams requests a work order for another 2, and then at some point in the next few months, the controller and the fire commissioner come over with a budget amendment for those additional 2 as needed.
Or all the way until the...
Because we need the funding.
You won't need the...
You have to have the funding in your department to be able to go out and buy something.
Right.
We want to fund it before you go out and commit.
Yes.
That's the way the flow is supposed to go.
Yes, I get what you're saying. You want me to be able to commit to something if we can find something and if we need
Right.
it. But
We want
not
to
do something
encumber the money
unless we
so
have to.
it's ready to be spent when needed.
Yes, I get it.
Mr. President, can we ask for that
As stated.
to come for the next meeting?
Yep.
I mean,
Great.
Because we can't appropriate funds. We can adjust
Right.
this one today, but we cannot force
Right.
an appropriate.
That's what I'm saying. If
Unless
that's
it's a
why I asked if he
budget.
had money. If
Okay.
he doesn't have any money, they have to appropriate the funds before
Right.
we do it.
okay.
Oh, no, not to just reserve it.
That's
Not to
why I say
just
reserve it
reserve
and then
them.
bring it over.
We're only reserving them.
Right.
Are we all good?
So we're good. The motion is what? For 4 or 5? At this point, 5.
Okay.
Okay,
Motion by Moore, support by Watts. Ms. Moore, as the motion is stated.
yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 6-0. Thank you, Commissioner. Next item.
Thank you,
Next.
Council.
Next item is 14B, request of the city controller for an increase in budgeted appropriations for various departments totaling $20,328 to provide sufficient funding for the balance of the 2023 fiscal year, consideration and adoption of a resolution. 5 votes are needed. Motion to approve.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Green votes yes, item passed 6-0. Next item.
14C, request of the rental coordinator for an increase in budgeted appropriations in the amount of $2,650 in order to have sufficient funds for the remainder of the 2023 fiscal year. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. 5 votes are needed. Motion to approve.
Support Lafferty.
How many days are left in the fiscal year?
3.
Should we make this non-reconsiderable?
Oh, we probably should.
Mr. President, I will offer an amendment to waive our...
Oh, no, I was just thinking about that
reconsideration
because it's 3 days left. I mean, but regardless. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Green votes yes, item passed 6-0. Next item.
14D, request of the Parks and Recreation Department for a transfer between line items in the amount of $243,383 to cover various expenses that were not reappropriated from fiscal year 2022. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. 5 votes are needed.
So moved. Lafferty with discussion.
Support.
Motion by Lafferty, support by Moore. Discussion, Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you. You actually alluded to one point that I wanted to make is I don't know if Mr. Turcato can spend $243,000 in the next 3 days, but I would assume Mr. Turcato, through the chair, has already encumbered the majority of those funds and is trying to break even.
Good evening, Council. That is correct, Mr. Lafferty. We have, this is just line transfers. The gasoline, different items have gone up, contractual services for mowing, and so we're just, I was a little over budget in those, so I'm just transferring within on a line item budget that you guys have for us, so.
Understood.
That's basically what it is.
Thank you. I do want to address a couple of comments that were made, and because I want you to get a fair deal here. The rhetoric that's being ballied about either in political literature or at the microphone during audience. And there are, in the 5-year plan that you submitted at the beginning of our term, you asked, or I asked for, what are all of the improvements that you have slated for the next 5 years? And according to the list, we have 5 projects slated for 2023. Birdie Park, Groesbeck, Steinhauser, Veterans, and Wiegand were all on that list. And that totaled $1.3 million in improvements. And it's various, it's restrooms, new play structures, and in years past, you've always brought us the proposals for the new restrooms, for the new playscapes, the renderings, but nothing has come through in the first few months of this year, or at the tail end of last year to be started this year.
Councilman, it's, to go to that, I think I've sent you all several times the financial statements. The $3.6 million have been used up, most of it from the last council. So in order for me to go forward with bringing a new resolution, I have to, like Mr. Green says, I have to have the money there. So I don't have the money to go out for a new play structure that was needed at one of them, or the bathroom. So the purchaser will not take anything without me doing that. So I need the dollars in my budget in order for me to go out. And then in front of you, it would all come up to this council in order to be approved.
So you would need to request an appropriation for specific projects.
Or just general money, like the $5.7 million that was allocated, and at that point, I would be coming in front of you every time for what I was improvements.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But bottom line, you would be asking for an appropriation from council for each project. If you were doing it project by project, you have the financial mechanism to be able to come to the controller.
Not without funding, though, not without the money in my capital improvements, correct?
That's why you would need the allocation.
Correct, through you guys. We could do that tonight, and you could approve the $4 million, $4.7 million,
it's not on the agenda. My point is that you can ask for an allocation for specific projects without having a,
Let's stay on the
I understand, but
243,000. Let's stay on the 243,000. Let's stay on the
we're making your budget whole and covering all of the expenses that you encumbered. I want to make very clear that the financial mechanisms exist, just like we're doing right now with this item, to allocate funds to cover expenses and to appropriate funds to purchase new items for your department, for other departments, fire, police, whatever they need. And you have that capability. So I don't see any reason why new projects, other than if this is politically motivated, because you can't say on political literature that there is no, that the parks aren't being renovated, they're not being constructed, they're not being improved. People might contradict that if a new playscape is going in.
Yes, but Councilman, if I'm understanding correctly, and I'm not positive about the procedure, you as council would have to do a resolution and give me capital improvement money to go forward with the play structures.
Not after a budget has been proposed.
Well, then
So
there's no, then there's no...
I think it's without argument. I'm trying to be respectful, Mr. Turcato.
I agree, but I cannot go forward
Mr. Lafferty,
without
let's go back to the agenda item.
capital improvement.
243,000 for various.
So this here, Councilman, and I appreciate that, this here, Councilman, is just, the money's in my budget. You do a line item budget, so in a couple of the line items...
I understand what we're voting on, yes.
Yes, so that's what that's about.
Thank you.
Mr. Turcato.
Mr. President,
Mr. Watts?
I'm just going to hijack a little bit. Since you brought up Steinhauser.
Let's
No.
stay on this topic, please.
How bad was the damage of Steinhauser from the storm?
It was good, it was quite bad. The comfort station roof is pretty much collapsed. It was probably 10, 12 large oak trees that were taken down. I had a contractor out there today, they did a great job. We had the same situation with it, so it's all cleaned up. By the end of the week, it should have, probably by tomorrow, most of it will be done, just a few hangers and all that, so any danger we're taking out of it. I'm pleased about that. We had a couple large oaks go down at Lick Park also. One went into one of the yards. We destroyed the gazebo and things like that, but we took care of that today. So thankfully, no one got hurt.
Good.
Those were the two main parks, that area, but boy, Steinhauser was a mess. I have to admit.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures of it, so. Okay.
Call the question. Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Moore? Yes. Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Ms. Rogancy?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Green votes yes, item passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Next item.
14E, request of the Police Department for an increase in appropriations in the amount of $11,369 to cover expenses associated with changes to clerical positions within the department. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. 5 votes are needed. Motion to approve.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Ms. Rogancy?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Green votes yes, item passed 7-0. Next item.
14B, request of the local roads for an increase in budgeted appropriations in the amount of $7,875 in order to provide sufficient funding for the remainder of the 2023 fiscal year. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. 5 votes are needed. So moved.
Is that 14F?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So moved.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Ms. Rogancy?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Green votes yes, item passed 7-0. Next item.
14G, request of the major roads for an increase in budgeted appropriations in the amount of $141,875 in order to provide sufficient funding for the remainder of the 2023 fiscal year. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. 5 votes are needed. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Ms. Rogancy?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Green votes yes, item passed 7-0. Next item.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.